Bit different? Do you think you're a little bit different in how you're approaching this? It seems like a lot of people would rather play anybody but a school they have such strong ties to. For instance, Venables, said he doesn't not crazy about playing Oklahoma.
No, if I could just script it, if you could say, hey, you're going to get a chance to play the national championship game at some point. Who do you want it to be against? I would pick Alabama, again for the same reasons, because they're the best. They've been the best. They've earned that. They got 15 national championships. I don't know how many SEC championships. There you go, 25. They've been. This is their fourth national championship in 7 years. So we want to be the best. So let's go play the best team out there and see if we can get it done, and measure up. If we're good enough to get it done, we'll get it done. If we're not, and we'll go back to work and keep working. So I think it's exactly the way I would have wanted it to be.
And another thing too about this game in particular is Clemson's depth of ties to the school.
Yeah,
when did you become clear on that? And
long time ago, to be honest with you, because when I was a sophomore at Alabama in '90, that's when Gene Stallings came. And he brought a bunch of Clemson guys. Woody McCorvey was the receiver coach at Clemson. And that's how I started learning. I knew about Clemson, but I started kind of intimately learning about Clemson through Woody McCorvey and Ellis Johnson and Chip Davis and Danny Pearman and Curly Hallman. Hootie Ingram was my AD for years at Alabama. So, the ties are crazy. I think Hootie was instrumental in getting the Paul, patented when he was here. Obviously, Frank Howard. I met Frank Howard when I was about 10 years old. I got a picture of Frank Howard in my office having dinner with my mom and dad, at a restaurant. Just the craziest. It's just crazy, how things get intertwined like that. And then Woody McCorvey obviously became a great role model, mentor in my life, still is to this day. He's my chief of staff here, if you will, and not to mention Charlie Pell. Danny Ford. It's just amazing the ties between the two schools from a head coach standpoint. But then you look at all the assistants who have, left Clemson to go to Alabama, or have left Alabama to come to Clemson. It's really crazy. Bill Oliver. I spent 6-7 years with Bill Oliver and worked with Curly Hallman. So just so many guys. Charlie Harbison was a guy that was back and forth to both schools. Just a bunch of ties between these two schools for whatever reason. And there's a lot of closet Clemson fans in Alabama. They don't want to admit it, but there's a bunch of them. I think we've kind of become a team in that state where, people pull for. Kind of gives them another team. It's kind of boring when your team when your team's done on Saturday. At least you got somebody else that you can watch. And I think our brand has definitely grown in that state.
Coach, you're the first team to be 14-0 going into this thing, and a chance to go 15-0. What would that mean?
It'd mean we're the best ever. That's what it would mean. And who's going to argue with that? Somebody, one of y'all will. But you'd lose in a court of law. I'll promise you that. I'd love to be the lawyer on that one. Because you know what? I ain't never been a 15-0 team.
One of the things in the summer, Deshaun's at the Habitat for Humanity thing. A kid asked him a question about his goal. He says, want to go 15-0. It struck me as strange because, nobody's ever done that before. How did you get these guys thinking this is possible, this is what we need to work towards?
I think you got to lay the vision out there. And August 3rd, I came in and I kind of put a bunch of numbers on the board and I kind of talked about what each one of them represented. I gave them a T-shirt, and on the back said 15 for 15, and here's what it means. It's 2015. Right now, we've sold every ticket, but there's only 12, and we want to make them print 15 tickets. We talked about when we win the ACC, it's going to be our 15th ACC championship. And, there's nothing wrong with winning them all, guys. But what we got to do, we don't have to win them all. We just got each week. We just got to be good enough to win the one we're playing. And we just started talking about the mentality of what it was going to take, and just kind of laying the roadmap out there. And these guys embraced that. It wasn't necessarily about being 15-0. It was about being the best that we could be. Ohio State wasn't 15-0, but they won the national championship. So it wasn't necessarily about being 15-0, but as the season went, because every week we talk about, all right, if you lost one early, all right, well, what's the best we can be? We can be 11-1. All right, but you can't win 11, and so it was kind of like, okay, well, we can still be 12-0, boys, but you can't win 12 till you win 6. You can't win 12 till you win 7. And just kind of that weekly focus that we went about our business with. But then as the season continued to go, well, now, if we're going to win it all, we got to be 15-0. And they've embraced that. But I think that you got to have you have to be able to articulate it and lay a plan out there. And guys, you got to be capable. And I definitely think that we're a team that coming into this thing was one of the 10 or 12 teams that really had a shot. And it just worked out for us. It's hard to win each and every one. There's a lot of other great teams out there that are very worthy of being in this game. There's no doubt about it. They're a few plays away. In my opinion, the last couple of years, we're about 4 or 5 plays away from being in this game. This year we made those few plays. We kept a couple of key guys healthy, got a little lucky there. That's all part of it. But the thing that I'm most proud of, it's not just the 14-0, but it's the consistency. We're here because of the consistency and the longevity that we've put in place in our program over several years. I mean, this is going to be our 4th top 15 finish in a row, 3rd top 10 finish in a row in 4 years. So we've been very consistent, and the culmination of that and the accumulation of that is helped us get to where we are right now.
What is the plan with Shaq this week, and how has he looked so far?
Looked good yesterday, running around. He was a little sore, but was able to do, I think, everything that Danny wanted him to. Danny was pleased. I'm very optimistic.
Coach, is anyone in your family going to roll Tide instead of pull for Clemson?
Not if they're in my family. I got a lot of people want to be in my family right now, by the way. It's a big family. I got a bunch of cousins and nephews that I didn't even know I had. No, it's all good. It's all good. All I know is they're not getting a ticket from me unless they're wearing orange. So it'll be a lot of fun.
Dabo, you talked about turning on the tape. And a lot of people who follow Alabama think that your 92 team with Curry and Copeland and those guys was the best defensive line Alabama's ever had. Now they're looking at this defensive line and said, these guys are pretty good too.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, splitting hairs there. I mean, it's a great group. I mean, time will tell. I think you go back to that 92 team and you can measure that. I mean, you had the 3rd pick in the draft or 4th pick in the draft. You had 3 first-rounders or 4 first-rounders, and you had all these second-rounders. And I mean, the Thorpe Award winner. I mean, they were George Teague and what they went on to do in their pro careers and on and on and on. So I don't think you can really truly measure that right now. I mean, statistically, Alabama, that 92 team was about number 1 in everything. This group here, I think they're 2 total defense, but they're about number 1 in everything else. I mean, they're a dominant group, just like that group was. But who's the best? I mean, I think there's a lot of arguments either way, but only time will tell.
These guys are pretty good.
Yeah, they're really good. I mean, they look a lot like we did last year. I mean, we led the nation in 11 categories last year, but we had 6 D linemen, go on to the NFL. We were deep and talented in that front last year and experienced. I mean, I think we're deep and talented right now. We're just very inexperienced. And where you look at them right now, I mean, last year we take Vic Beasley out, and here comes Shaq Lawson. I mean, you take, Corey Crawford out, here's Tavares Barnes and Kevin Dodd, and I mean, you take Grady out, here comes DJ Reader, and it was just Deshaun Williams and Josh Watson. We're just really deep, and that's what they look like. That's why they've been such a tough team to play against, because, I mean, I'm telling you, they got 11 guys, and they got 1 freshman and 1 sophomore. It's all seniors and juniors, so not only are they talented, but they're experienced and obviously well coached. So a really tough group. That's where it starts, and then you I mean, they got backers that are going to be first rounders. They got a bunch of secondary guys that are going to be first rounders when their time comes. So they're a complete group, no doubt.
Coach Kevin, you rattled off a bunch of names early on about Alabama, but what has the vertical passing game taken off with the emergence of Calvin Ridley, like second half of the season? What is your perception of the work he's doing right now?
Well, I mean, everything starts with the running game for them. First of all, that's just who they are. Those guys up front, this offensive line sets the tempo, and then obviously that number 2. I mean, they just beat you to death with that guy. He's a different animal, and so you got to commit. You got to commit people, so they get a lot of matchups. And when you got explosive guys, it's hard for one guy to hold up consistently. And so they've exposed people with the speed. Ridley's I don't know what his actual time. He's got to be a 10-4, 10-5, 100-meter guy. Yeah, that's what he looks like. And something they put him in the slot, and you put him in the slot, and he's getting free releases. He's a problem for safeties. He's a real problem. But they move him around, but all those guys are good. 16, 13, they're all good players. The tight end is a great weapon. So they're just very balanced. I mean, they force you to, if you don't stop the run, you have zero chance. Absolutely zero, because they're going to commit to it. Obviously, I mean, Henry's had several games, he's carried the ball 40-something times. So that's where it all starts, and that's led to some explosive plays. And then you got to give their quarterback a lot of credit because, like I said, when people have done a pretty good job of kind of, keeping them within reason in the run game, Coker's made a bunch of big plays for him. He's made big plays in the run game as well. They'll run him, they'll tempo, they'll do some no-huddle stuff, but the explosiveness that they've got on the outside has been a real challenge for a lot of people.